Good morning. Good morning, everybody. My name is Rupa, working as assistant professor in Chevrolet Engineering College. Now I'm dealing the subject renewable energy sources, and today's topic is solar radiations. Okay, so what are the solar sun rays energies? We are using the energies for various ones. So here now we can go for the data of the solar radiations. So what is the solar energy? First of all, we discussed in previous classes, solar energy, it has a greatest potential of all the sources of renewable energy. So until now we have some of the renewable energies like wind, tidal, and geothermal biomass. So out of all the energies, this solar energy is considered, it is having the greatest potential of all the sources of renewable energies. So in this, if you can adapt a small amount of energy, we can have a use of large applications. Okay, and only a small amount of this farm energy can be used by our humans, because all the solar radiation on the earth cannot be collected. If you collect only small amount, also we can use it for great applications, and it is one of the most important suppliers of energy, especially if you are when other sources in the country has been depleted. That means consider the fossil fuels such as coal, oil, petroleum, like that. If those fossil fuels are getting exhausted, are getting depleted, we can use this solar energy. Suppose by using a fuel of petrol, we can run a vehicle, automobile. Suppose if you design a vehicle with this solar radiation, with this grasping of solar radiations, and we can, and if you succeed to um, run this, what is this, vehicle, we can we can save large amounts of fuel, right? So if other renewable energy sources are depleted, but this solar energy cannot be depleted until our earth existence and exists, right? So energy will be coming from the earth, sun, to the earth, towards the earth. So this energy which is coming from the sun, this keeps the temperature of the earth above the colder spaces, above that in the colder spaces, and these cause current in the atmosphere and in oceans, and this causes the water cycle, and this causes the photosynthesis in plants. So this sun is responsible for all the activities, routine activities that are done on the earth silently, right? So the temperature of the earth will be maintained constant, and the temperature of the earth will be maintained for the people, for the living in the earth, living on the earth. So they can be used, this solar radiation can be used for the water cycle generation also, and this causes the rains, and this causes the photosynthesis in plants. Okay, so the solar power where the sun hits the atmosphere is 10 power 17 watts. Okay, and whereas the solar power on the earth surface is 10 power 16 watts, right? So the total worldwide power demand of all the need of civilization is 10 power 13 watts. So if sun gives us 1,000 times power more than we need, right? We are not able to use that sun's energy, but sun is giving us 1,000 times more power than we need. So in totally, in approximately, we are using only 5% of this energy. Okay, so if you can use the 5% of this energy, it will be 50 times what the world will require. Okay, so if you grasp only 5%, the amount of energy is 50 times what the world will be requiring. And the energy radiated by the sun on a bright Sunday, if you consider on a bright sunny day, not Sunday, bright sunny day means on the daytime, on the sunny daytime means When the clouds are not there, it is termed as sunny day. And the energy is calculated. The energy radiated by the sun onto the earth on a bright sunny day is approximately 1 kilowatt per meter square. Okay, so all the possible and successful attempts have been made to make use of this energy. Okay, so if you use this energy in rising steam, it is used for driving the prime movers. So what are the prime movers? The turbines are termed as the prime movers in generation of electrical energy, right? So if you can absorb this energy and convert it into steam, we can drive the prime movers, nothing but we can drive the turbines and we can generate the electrical energy. Okay. So, however, on the account of large space required, this needs a large space requirement. And we are getting not a constant availability of energy. We are actually intermittent availability of energy is there, because on a sunny day the radiation will be one way, and on the cloudy days and at the daytimes there will be one way. So it will be differed, the sun's radiation will be differed from time to time. So this uncertainty of availability of energy at constant rate and due to the clouds, winds and haze, etc. These are the drawbacks of the sun radiation. There are some limited applications of the source. Okay, and we are stepping back for the generation of electrical power due to these drawbacks only. So nowadays these drawbacks can be overcome. So what are the drawbacks we have seen? See, what are the drawbacks? Energy cannot be stored, dilute form of energy and required large areas. So if you say in the olden days, it is a drawback, right? Nowadays, these drawbacks cannot be a drawback because they cannot be, these are outdated arguments, because if you see the first drawback, energy cannot be stored, or it is second one, it is a dilute form of energy. So because why I'm saying these are outdated arguments means, since the energy produced can be stored by using hydrogen, or if you want we can store in other mechanical or electrical devices, or it can be stored in the containers of chemicals called eukaryotic or phase changing salts. Okay, so if you store energy in these phase changing salts, these salts which store large quantities of heat, these will be storing large quantities in small volumes only. Okay, so relatively small volumes we store large quantities of heat. So when they are melted when they are heated, and they release large amounts of heat rather than they are cool and crystallized. So by this the energy can be concentrated in solar furnaces. For example, they can achieve a temperature in a region of 5000 degrees Celsius. So these facts, what I said before, these facts speak in favor of solar energy. Okay, because we have seen in analysis of commercial energy sources, the world's reserves of coal, oil and gases, these will be getting exhausted within a few decades. Okay, so these we cannot depend in our future with these fossil fuels or with these commercial energy sources, because these are more commercial nowadays. We cannot be adopted on that. So nuclear energy also, they involve considerable hazards, and nuclear fission has not yet overcome all the problems of even fundamental researches and compared with these technologies. So the feasibility of which is still, these are still uncertain and contested, and technical utilization of solar energy is proved to be very successful and very useful. So utilization of this solar energy, it is of great importance to the India, because we lies in the temperature climate of the region of the world. where the sunlight is abundant for major part of the year. So if you consider only summer, we get lots of solar radiations. We can go for the peak solar radiations in summer. But what about the other seasons? Is it a cloudy days? Is there any cloudy days? Yes, but in some rainy days and some and some cool weather regions only, we are not able to get the solar radiations. But maximum 80% of the India can get the solar radiation almost all the years. Okay, so through all the seasons we can get the solar radiation in a abundant way. What we require is more what we are getting. Okay, so the basic research in solar radiation, solar energy is being carried out in various universities and educational and research institutions and public sector institutions, like if you consider Bharat Heavy Electrical Limited and Central Electronic Limited, these are carrying out coordinate programs of research in the solar energies. So now we will see different applications of solar energies which are successful today. So these applications, what I am saying are these, we are in these applications we are enjoying more success today. Okay, so coming to the first application, it is heating and cooling of residential buildings. On the roofs we are taking a solar panel, and if you are able to grasp the solar radiations on the roof, at the time, at the daytime we can grasp the solar radiations, and at the night time we can use it for cooling or heating by using various applications, various apparatus. By we are using various apparatus for this, and we are converting it to heating or cooling purpose. Okay, next is the most used application by all the people, or in the recent, in the recent ways, in the recent days, we can see this as outmost success project of solar water heating. Almost all the apartments and all the roofs of the houses now are encountering this solar water heater panels. So these black panels will grasp the solar radiation, and the water which is flowing through the pipes, they will be getting heated. So in the place of the geyser, we are using this solar water heatings. And the third one is solar drying of agriculture and animal products. So by using, we can use for both agriculture usage and animal products usage for drying process. Okay, so due to the solar radiation, the wet which is remained in the agriculture and animal products can be dried using by using solar radiations. And fourth application is solar distillation in a small community scale. Okay, so this can be in a, if you arrange for small community scale, we can use this for solar distillation process. And fifth application is salt production by evaporation of seawater or inland drains. Okay, so this solar solar radiation can evaporate the seawater and can be, we can produce salts. And next one is solar cooker. So while you are using a solar electric cookers, in future days we can work on the solar cookers. We can cook our food in the solar cookers. Okay, and next one is seventh application, solar engines for water pumping. So water pumping needs a lot of fuel, and they require some vehicles, automobiles, apparatus. So for this we can use solar engines for water pumping. And food refrigeration also used by but we can use food refrigeration by using solar coolers. Next, ninth one is bioconversion and wind energy, which are indirect source of solar energy. So this is bioconversion means and wind energy means by using some conversion apparatus, and by blowing of this solar, by changing of the solar radiation into other forms of conversion of energies, we can use this as a prime mover. This solar radiation can be used as a prime mover for wind energy also. So as we are using this as a prime mover, we are terming it as an indirect source of solar energy, right? And next one is solar furnaces. We use for solar furnaces also. And next application is solar electric power generation. So we can use this solar energy for our electric power generation in many ways. So some of the ways I am noting here, I'm explaining here. First one is solar ponds. So as a solar pond means nothing but it will be a small pond. It depends upon the usage. So we can go for medium, large and small solar ponds. So the solar pond means nothing but a storage of water in the form of a pond, and this water will be get heated by the solar radiations. Okay, so on the top, so heated water will be there. When the water is getting heated, cool water will be coming up, and heat water will be, as they become light, they will be, as they become light, they will be heated more, and cooling water will be circulated, and heat water and cooling water will be circulating in the ponds. So these ponds are used for various applications. By storing, we can store the solar radiations in this pond also. So if you store this one, we can use this for electrical power generation by converting it into steam. Okay, next one is solar generators. So if you discuss about the solar ponds, we can go brief. So this solar pond is of, it is some artificial or a natural body of water. These are used for collecting and absorbing solar radiation energy and storing these stores as a heat. So this solar pond, this is combining both the solar energy collection and sensible heat storage also. Okay, so these will be a depth of 5 to 10 centimeters with a radiation absorbing. Suppose black plastic bottom will be there. So if you put a black plastic bottom at the down at the bottom, black plastic one at the bottom, we can grasp more solar radiations. Okay, so we can use a salt gradient also in the solar ponds. Dissolved salt is used to create a layer of water with different densities. If you use more salt, the denser water will be there. And the concentration of salt at the surface is also low. Usually it will be less than 5% by weight. And because to put the water lightly weighted, we are using this concentration, and the salt concentration will be increased as we go into the depth, and until at the bottom it is very high. So at the top we can see the salt concentration of 5%, and at the bottom we can see around 20%. So mainly this solar pond is having three zones. First zone is called from 0.3 to 0.5 meters. The first zone is called surface convective zone or upper convective zone, and the salinity of this is 5% only. And second one is coming to the second zone, it is called as convective zone, and it is a zone of depth 1 to 1.5 meters, and the salinity increases with the depth. Okay, so I'm not mentioning the salinity, and at the bottom layer I will be mentioning. See, last storage area is storage zone or lower convective zone. So this is at the depth of 1.5 to 2 m meters, 2 m 2 meters, and the salinity is around 20%. So in the above classification of zone, a solar pond of 2 meters depth is considered for illustrations only, whereas this depth may be varied from 1 to 2 meters. So at the bottom there is a storage zone which is typically 1 or 2 meters depth, but it can be little half of the meter also, as much as several meters depth. So the surface convective zone, usually it has small thickness around 10 to 20 centimeters, and it has low and uniform concentration, which is close to zero, as well as fairly uniform temperature, which is close to ambient temperature, ambient air temperatures. Okay, so this non-convective zone, that means second zone, the non-convective zone is much thicker and it occupies more than half the depth of the pond also. Okay, and both concentrating and temperature increases with depth. So the heat, some heat, the it serves mainly as an insulating layer and it reduces the heat loss in the upward directions, right? So the lower convective zone or storage zone, in both comparably they have thickness and both the concentration and temperature are nearly constant in the zone. So the lowest zone will be trapping heat for long periods, damping the effects of daily and even seasonally change also. This capacity for low cost storage is one of the chief advantages of salt gradient solar ponds. So they can be tapped for energy at night as well as during the day also. So even during the long periods of cloudy days, cloudy covers, even ice covers, the snow ice covers, they can be, the energy can be, the stored energy is still available there at the bottom areas. So as the salt water near the bottom heats up, it expands and it cannot rise because it is more denser and the less salty water above. Thus the solar water pond is non-convective and the warm water stays trapped below because they have more denser weight. They are more weight, they are having more weight, they cannot go upwards and the cooling water will be heated and they will be circulating down to the bottom layers. Okay, so this cycle will be going on and while we are heating this water, some heat will be still lost by the conduction to the surface and but this process is much weaker than convection. So lower waters may even warm up and above the boiling point of the pure water also. And the highest temperature ever recorded in the solar pond is 108 degrees Celsius. This we can see in summer. Suppose if you consider in 1980 of the year at summer at the University of New Mexico in Albuquerque, we got this temperature at the beneath layers 108 degrees. This is the highest ever recorded temperature in the solar pond. So depending upon the location and the water clarity and temperature, these solar ponds can capture 10 to 20% of the solar energy hitting its surface. Okay, so out of 100%, only 10 to 20% of energy are grasped by the solar ponds. So each square meter of pond surface area, this can supply 1/2 of gigajoules of thermal energy per year at the temperatures of 40 degrees to 80 degrees. Okay, so a flat plate conductor collector of same area will be twice as efficient but cost 10 times as much. And what is the using salt means, we this have the salt used in the solar ponds should have these following characteristics. It must have high value of solubility to allow high solution densities and the solubility should not vary with temperature. Okay, and its solution must be absolutely transparent to solar radiation. And fourth one is it must be environmentally benign, safe to handle to the groundwater, and it must be available in abundance near site so that its total delivered cost will be low, and it must be, last important one is it must be inexpensive. Okay, and coming to the second one, steam generators. These steam generators can be heated by rotating reflectors. Means the rotating reflectors are called as heliostat mirrors or by tower concepts. So these tower concepts are, we can handle these tower concepts because we can have success rate in the tower concepts because these are located in these are located at high altitudes from the ground, so that we can grasp the solar radiation maximum to maximum extent. So these heliostat mirrors, these are rotating reflectors. These will be rotating as a sunflower. So while the sunflower will be rotating along the sun direction, so we have to put the sensors in the rotating reflectors in order to track the sun's radiations. Okay, so that's why these are called as rotating reflectors. Okay, so these rotating reflectors are of small sizes. These are sizes, and these are made up of mirrors. A small volume of mirror is kept onto the tracking element, and this will be tracking the sun all around. And third one is reflectors with lenses and pipes for fluid circulations. These we can find in cylindrical parabolic reflectors. So this will be briefly explained in the next chapters. So what are the apparatus required for the collection of solar radiation? So there are so many types of solar collectors. The main two important collectors are concentrating and non-concentrating. So concentrating collectors have more success rate than these non-concentrating collectors, because concentrating collectors will be concentrating at one point, and that point is heated to high temperatures, and from that point we can go for the distribution of solar energy. Okay, so from that one point we can distribute the solar energy. By coming to the non-concentrating collectors, we need large spaces of area, and from that large spaces of area we can lose due to conduction. We can lose some of the solar radiations due to the conductions also. Conduction, because some of the temperature absorbed by the solar radiation will be lost into the atmospheres. And last application is solar photovoltaic cells. Okay, so these solar photovoltaic cells, these are used for conversion of solar energy directly into the electricity, or for water pumping and rural agriculture process purposes. Okay, so photovoltaic cell will be explained, the basic photovoltaic cell, and how we can transfer the energy from the photovoltaic cell by directly into the electricity. Electrical energy is discussed afterwards. Okay, so the heat, these are applications, and still the heat from the solar collectors can be directly used for warming the living spaces of buildings in conventional ways. Example, through radiators and through air resistors, hot air resistors. If you encounter, we can use this for warming of living spaces. So when the building does not require heat, the warmed air or liquid from the collector can be moved to the heat storage container. And after that, in the case of air, the storage is often a pile of rocks or some other heater holding materials in case of liquid. And it is usually a large well which is insulated tank of water which has considerable heat capacity. So heat is stored in the containers of chemicals. These stored containers are called as eutectic, EUTECTIC, or these are called as phase changing salts. So these salts will be storing large quantities of heat in a small volumes. Okay, so these are melted, and when they are heated and releases heat, later they can cool and they can be crystallized. So once they are heated, the heat will be transferred from the salt and to the apparatus, and after that they will be getting cooled and they are crystallized again. So when the if you need heat to the buildings, the air or water from its heating system, these passes through the storage. These which is passing through the storage is warmed and is then fed through the conventional heaters to warm the space. Okay, so for sunless days or cloudy days, an auxiliary system as a backup is always required. So this is the main drawback of the solar radiations. So this is same for the this is same is true for the solar cooling systems also. The heat from the solar energy, this can be used to cool buildings. Okay, so using the absorption cooling principle operative in gas fired refrigerators, we can use this. Presently available equipment usually requires extremely high operating temperatures for above those for efficient solar collections. So a great deal of current research is being devoted to developing systems requiring lower operating temperatures, but it will be probably for several years before solar collectors will be commercially viable. It needs some years. So solar energy units for heating domestic water, these are commercially available and these are used by millions of people in various parts of the world. For example, if you see the countries Australia, Israel, Japan, a solar water heater is commonly compresses a blackened. These are used. These countries will be are using these solar heating techniques. So if you take a solar water heater, it is commonly comprises a blackened flat metal plate metal collector. Okay, so with an associated metal tubing, it is facing the general direction of the sun, and the collector is provided with the transparent glass cover and a layer of thermal insulation is there beneath the plate. So the collector tubing is connected to a pipe, by a pipe to an insulated tank. So this insulated tank will be storing hot water during non-sunny periods. Okay, so the collector absorbs the solar radiation and by transfer of resulting heat to the water circulating through the tubing by gravity or by pump, hot water is supplied to the storage tanks. Okay, so solar water heating system for domestic, industrial and commercial applications are present available now. In commercial, suppose if you take in commercial establishments, there is a great potential, especially if you take in hotels, hospitals, guest house and tourist bungalows, canteens, etc. These are the commercial applications of solar water heating. Okay, coming to the industrial applications, water heating system can meet the low and medium temperature process, and the heat requirements are there. The hot water up to 90 degrees Celsius or hot air up to 110 degrees Celsius and low pressure steam up to 140 degrees Celsius is used by these industrial applications. These are specially useful in engineering, textile, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, food processing, and sugar and dairy and other industries also. So hot water systems, these have relevance for many agriculture and village industries. Suppose if you take handloom fabric, sericulture and leather tanning and handmade paper, these have relevance success relevance. So the basic method for solar distillation means it is to admit solar radiation through a transparent cover to a shallow covered brine base. So water evaporates from the brine and the vapor condenses on the covers which are so arranged so that these condensates flows there form into these collections. Okay, so these will be from troughs and hence into the product water storage tank. In arid and semi-arid or coastal areas, there is the abundant sunlight. Okay, so this can be used for converting blackish or saline water into potable distilled water also. And if you take a traditional and widespread use of solar energy, it is used for drying particularly of agriculture products. So this is a process of substantial economic significance in many areas. So this process is of special interest in the case of soft fruits. These are particularly vulnerable to attack by insects as the sugar concentrations increases during drying. So fruit dryers in which fruit is placed is carefully designed. These designed racks, the fruit where it to be kept. These racks are designed carefully to provide controlled exposure to the solar radiations. This often improves the product quality and it saves a considerable time. Okay, so a simple cabinet dryer consists of a box insulated at the base, painted black on the inside, and covered with an inclined transparent sheet of glass. Okay, so ventilation holes are also provided at the base and the top of the sides of the box to facilitate flow of air over the drying material. So which is placed on perforated trays. These trays are called as perforated trays in the interior of the cabinet base. So large drying systems like grain, paddy, maize, cash crops like ginger, cashew, pepper, etc., and spray drying of milk, timber and veneer drying, tobacco curing, fish and fruit drying, etc. These are also have been developed. And next, the last application is solar refrigeration. We will see now. So what is meant by solar refrigeration means it is intended for food preservation. So we can simply call it as storage of biological and medical materials. And these deserves top priority. It has a top priority in our country like India. So solar air conditioning can be utilized for space cooling, and solar assisted heat pumps will provide both cooling and heating also. Okay, so if you see the cold storages are very important for preservation and conservation of food articles. So mainly there are two methods for solar refrigerations. First method is vapor absorption refrigeration and second method is using concentrating collectors. Right? So if you comes for first one, vapor absorption refrigerations, these systems which utilize low grade thermal energy obtained from flat plate collectors. Okay, and if you do some little modifications, we can use these applications. And the second one is using concentrating collectors. So these concentrating collectors can also be called as focusing collectors. Okay, so the solar radiation is entirely focused on to one point, and the point which is heated has highest temperatures. So these concentrating or focusing collectors, these collectors which collect the solar radiation, they supply heat at higher temperatures to a heat engine. Okay, so this heat engine will drive the compressor of a conventional refrigerators. Okay, so solar refrigeration with an absorption system, it is a better way of direct utilization of energy. And the vapor absorption system, which is replacing the compressor by a generator absorber assembly, can work with wide range of absorbents and refrigerants. Okay. So in absorption system, motive power is required is very small, but still COP of the system is very low. So we will discuss the electricity from solar energy, and the user can be this solar energy can be used for other um, sources of renewable energy. It can be used while discussed before. It can be this solar energy can also be used as a prime mover for other conversion, bioconversion and wind energy systems. So we will discuss these wind energies and how the solar energy will be using for the production of electricity. We will discuss in further classes.